Good morning, students. Welcome to our online e-learning class. Students, this is your second period and the subject is political science. Students, today I'll begin this video with a quote, and the quote is like this: the strongest people make time to help others. The strongest people make time to help others. Even if they are struggling with their own problems. I repeat, the strongest people make time to help others, even if they are struggling with their own problems. So this is the quote, students. Hope you have understood what is the meaning of this one. Same time, today I brought you one word of the day, one new word, and the new word is grubstake. Grubstake, Grubstake. So grubstake, the spelling is Grubstake, grubstake. In parts of speech, this word will be placed under verb. It is placed under what? Verb. And the meaning of this word is to provide with material assistance. To provide with material assistance. Here material means what? Money, finance. Okay. To provide with material assistance for launching an enterprises or for a person in a difficult circumstances. That means suppose you are helping a person with money, a person who is in difficult situation, you are helping that person with money, or you are helping money for a person to start an enterprise, a business. That is called what? Grubstake. Okay, students, thank you. Now let us move to our chapter. Students, actually we have started the last chapter, that is 6th chapter from the book 1, that is Contemporary World Politics. And the last chapter name is, that is globalization. And in the previous videos we have completed up to the consequences, the political consequences of what? The globalization. And today in this video we will try to complete the economic consequences and the cultural consequences of globalization. Students, this economic consequences of globalization is not a narrow concept. It's a very wider concept, very big concept. Okay, so it's a not a narrow concept, it's a very big concept, wider concept it is. And we cannot know the economic facets of globalization, since it's a vast or wider content. So we may not be able to know about the economic facets of globalization. Okay, so this particular dimension, economic consequence of globalization, this particular dimension shapes a large part of the content and the direction of contemporary debates surrounding globalization. So a part of the problem has to do with defining economic globalization. I repeat, a part of the problem has to do with defining economic globalization itself. The mention of economic globalization draws our attention immediately to the role of international institutions. That means whenever we speak about economic globalization, immediately the attention will go towards the international institutions such as that World Bank, IMF and WTO. So WTO, World Trade Organization, and IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. So these are the world institutions. So whenever we discuss about the economic consequence of globalization, immediately our attention will go towards these institutions, because these three institutions play major role, vital role in the economic globalization of the world. Okay, Now, yet globalization must not be viewed in such narrow terms also. Other than this, other than World Bank, other than IMF, other than that WTO, there are several other issues are there which are also covered or included in the economic globalization. Okay, economic globalization involves okay many actors other than this international organization. As I told you, I mean there are so many issues are there are so many things are there that are covered under economic globalization apart from this WTO, IMF and World Bank. So there are several actors are there which are not included in these three institutions, but they plays an important role in the economic globalization of the world. Okay, a much broader way of understanding of economic globalization requires us to look at the distribution of economic gains. That means, all the countries in the world are not having equal mineral wealth, natural resources or manufactured goods. So there is inequality in the distribution of all the things are there among the countries. So what is said here, a much broader way of understanding of economic globalization requires us to look at the distribution of economic gains. That implies who will get most from the globalization and who will get less from the globalization. So we have to think that one. Who are benefited more through globalization and who are benefited less or who are suffered due to globalization. We have to think both. Who are those countries or what are those countries which are benefited through globalization, that you have to read. At the same time, what are those countries which are completely destroyed on account of what? Globalization. Clear? Okay, students. So we have to read both. What is often called economic globalization usually involves greater economic flows. Here, greater economic flows means what? Flows means what? Movement of goods and services from one country to the other country. As I told you in the previous class, globalization means what? Integration of world markets or removal of barriers in the international trade. So flows here means what? The flow of goods and services from one country to other country. The same thing here, said here. Economic globalization usually involves greater economic flows among different countries of the world. Okay, some of this is voluntarily. Here voluntary means what? Knowingly, intentionally. Here voluntary means what? Knowingly or intentionally we are doing that trade flows. And some are forced by the international institutions. Sometimes WTO, sometimes IMF, sometimes World Bank. They are forcing us to do certain things. So sometimes the flows taking place between one country to other countries voluntarily with our willingness, and sometimes through forceful methods we are doing this one, and this force is coming to us from World Bank or world institutions such as WTO and IMF. So, and sometimes forced by international institutions and powerful, and also not only here these international institutions, by some powerful countries also, with their force also we are doing this trade, flows of goods and services between one country to other country. Okay, as we saw in the examples in the beginning of this chapter, this flows or exchange can be in the various forms. Exchange of what I told you, goods, services, ideas, even ideas also. Exchange of ideas, exchange of technology, exchange of ideas, exchange of goods, exchange of service, all of it comes under what? These flows. Okay. So as we saw in the examples at the beginning of this chapter, these flows or exchange can take various forms like commodities, like services, like capital. Here capital means what? Money, loans, capital, people also, exchange of people, migration of people, and also ideas. All these are comes under what? Flows. Globalization has evolved, or I can say what? Globalization has involved what? Greater trade in commodities across the globe. It is because of globalization today the international trade developed a lot among all the countries. Okay, so international trade became easier to all the countries because of what? Globalization. So globalization has involved greater trade in commodities across the globe. The restrictions, earlier what happened? There were restrictions. Some restrictions are imposed by WTO. But today what happened? All these barriers, all these hindrances, all the restrictions are being removed. Today the WTO is encouraging free trade among all the countries. I mean, every country can do exports with all the countries, and they should allow imports from other countries too. So exports and imports should be made free. Any country can do exports with any country, and they can import goods from any country. But generally what happened? People exports more and they restrict the imports into their country, because it will be a burden to their country. It will be a burden in their balance of payments. So that is been observed. So what is said here? Different countries are on allowing what imports of other countries have been reduced. What happened nowadays? Different countries on allowing the imports of other countries have been reduced. Today what we are seeing? Though WTO is telling to all the countries to encourage free trade, that means we should allow the imports of other countries also, the way in which we are exporting to other countries. But what we are doing, all the countries are doing, they are doing exports with other countries, but they are keeping some barriers which are called trade barriers. The trade hindrances, I can say. They are keeping trade barriers in what? Imports. So that is the problem is coming here. Actually every country is doing that one. Why they are doing that? Why they are imposing the trade barriers? In order to protect the interests of the domestic producers or the domestic industries. They are doing that one. Okay. Now similarly the restrictions on movement of capital across countries, I mean movement of money from one country to other country, from one continent to other continent. Similarly the restrictions on movement of capital across countries have also been reduced. Nowadays that also been reduced. I mean transfer of funds or loans or transfer capital also been reduced among the countries. In operational terms, it means that investors in the rich countries, generally rich countries only can invest where they can invest in the developing countries or underdeveloped countries. So what is it in operational terms? It means that investors in the rich countries, okay, can invest their money in countries other than their own. That means rich countries, developed countries who are having surplus money with them, they can invest their surplus money, okay, in those countries where they can get benefit or profit. So they are doing investment other than their countries, particularly in developing and underdeveloped countries. Okay, next one, including developing countries where they might get better returns, they will get more profits of that one. Globalization has also led to the flow of ideas across the international boundaries. Today, ideas are being shared among countries. Ideas are passing from one country to another country. So, passing of ideas or flow of ideas between countries or across countries also comes under what? Economic globalization. Okay. The spread of internet. This is possible. How it is possible? The spread of ideas. How we are spreading the ideas to other countries. How one country is spreading ideas to other countries? By the way of what? Internet and computers. By the way of internet and computers, they are spreading the ideas across the world. So through internet and computer related services is an example of that. But globalization has not led to the same degree of increase. Though this much we have done, but the thing what we expected from globalization, that stage we have not reached. Okay. Increase in movement, okay, global has not led to the same degree of increase in the globe. Developed countries, here developed like America, Britain, France, Germany, these countries, okay, developed countries have carefully guarded their borders with visa policies. I mean some countries like America, nowadays, so the developed countries, they made the rules in such a manner that they are not giving visa to other countries easily. So in this I can say that's one of the trade barrier or restrictions imposed by their country. So some developed countries very cleverly they are imposing several rules and regulations on visas so that people cannot enter into their countries. Okay, visa policies to ensure that the citizens of other countries cannot take away the jobs of their own country. Why they are not giving visas? Why the developed countries are not giving visas to all the countries who want to go to their country to do jobs or whatever it may be. Why? Because they believe that if they will come to their countries, if the people of other countries come to their country, then they will lose, they will take away the jobs of their country, and their country people will lead to what? Unemployers or unemployment. Okay. Now, in the same way, in thinking about the consequences of globalization, now we are coming to the economic consequences. So, in thinking about the consequences of globalization, it is necessary to keep in mind that the same set of policies do not lead to the same results everywhere. Same policies will not give same results everywhere. It depends upon the physical condition. It depends upon the government policies of that country. So, same policies. Suppose some policy you implemented in India and it gave better results to you. If the same policies are implemented in America, you may not get the same benefits. Clear? Same what I said here. In thinking about the consequences of globalization, it is necessary to keep in mind that the same set of policies do not lead to the same results everywhere. While globalization has led to similar economic policies adopted by governments in different parts of the world. Okay, this has governed vastly different outcomes in different parts of the world. It is again crucial to pay attention to the specific context rather than made simple generalizations in the correction. Now, economic globalization has created an intense division of opinions all over the world. Very, very important. Economic globalization has created an intense division of opinion. I repeat, economic globalization has created an intense division of opinion all over the world. Those who are concerned about social justice, those countries who are concerned much about the social justice are worried about the extent of state withdrawal caused by process of economic globalization. Many countries, in order to promote social justice in their country, they're withdrawing themselves from the international markets. Similarly, advocates of economic globalization, those people who are preaching about economic globalization. So what they said, the advocates of economic globalization argue that it generates greater economic growth. Some people always says that it is globalization that always leads to help in economic growth of a country. So advocates of economic globalization argue always that it generates greater economic growth and well-being for larger sections of the population when there is deregulation. So whenever you do the deregulation means what? Giving privatization or removing the trade barriers or liberalizing the trade policies. Whenever a country will liberalize the trade policies, whenever they will remove the trade barriers, then only that country will develop like that. Some of the advocates of economic globalization are telling. They always argue that globalization always brings economic growth in the country. Growth in the country. The only thing is what? You have to do deregulation. Withdrawing from the government. At the same time, here liberalization of the licensing policy or liberalization of the trade barriers or removing the trade barriers. Okay. Now, see next what is said here. One important thing in the textbook is given. They point out, these advocates, they point out that it is likely to benefit only small sections of the population. I repeat, yes, they point out that it is likely to benefit only a small section of the population while impoverishing those who were dependent on the government for jobs and welfare, education, health, sanitation, etc. They have emphasized the need to ensure institutional safeguards or creating social safety nets. You please underline that one in the textbook. What is meant by social safety nets? What is meant by social safety nets? I repeat once again. They point out that it is likely to benefit only small sections of the population while improvising those who were dependent on the government for jobs and welfare, such as education, health, sanitation, etc. They have emphasized the need to ensure institutional safeguards or creating social safety nets to minimize the negative effects of globalization. I mean, every country have to make the rules and regulations in such a manner that the negative effects of globalization should be minimized. Every country has to devise some policies. They have to devise some economic policies to minimize the ill effects of globalization. That's why many countries, they are keeping trade barriers on what imports from other countries. Okay. So minimize the negative effects of globalization on those who are economically weak. Many movements all over the world feel that safety nets are insufficient or unworkable. Some people argue that these safety nets are not, the right solution for the controlling the globalization. So many countries believe that these safety nets are not the, sufficient, stuff or sufficient thing to control what globalization. They are what unworkable. They have called for a halt, to stop to forced economic globalization, for its results would lead to the economic ruin of the weaker countries, especially for the poor within these countries. Some economists have described economic globalization as what recolonization of the world. Some of the economists, some famous economists of the world, they described that the present globalization is the second way of what? Colonization. Long back during British time, we have heard about colonization. They did colonization for their economic interests. They had taken our wealth, they had taken our resources, minerals, material wealth, etc. They exploited other countries for their economic benefits, economic gains. So some of the economists, they argue that they tells that this present globalization is nothing but one way of what? The recolonization. Okay. Now, next one. We will move to our another topic, that is cultural consequences. What are the cultural consequences of globalization? What are the cultural consequences of globalization? Okay. The consequences of globalization are not confined only to the sphere of political field or economic field. The globalization had its impact on what? Culture of the people also. Globalization also had a lot of impact on what? The culture of the people of a country. So what I want to say, that globalization is not only had its impact in political field and economic field. Not only we have the consequences in the economic globalization and also political globalization, but we have some consequences of globalization in cultural field also. For example, long back our traditional dresses in India, dhoti, kurta, pajama, okay, Indian shirt and pant we used to wear. But later nowadays we see we are importing jeans, jean pants, different shirts, and we are utilizing that one, we are wearing that one. That means this is what? One way of what? Impact of globalization on what? Cultural field. Earlier we are only celebrating what? Our Hindu festivals. But today we are celebrating all the festivals which are there in the world. Similarly, earlier we are eating the food of our Indian food, or food, I can say, or food grains, or can say, or fruits, I can say, vegetables which are grown in India. But today we are getting the fruits, vegetables from other countries also. So, globalization had its impact in cultural field also. What I want to say, it had its impact on what? Cultural field also. Okay. See what is said here. The consequences of globalization are not confined only to the sphere of the politics and economy. Globalization affects us in our home. Okay. It affects our home. It affects our culture also. In what we eat. Today what we are eating? We are eating all Western food. Earlier we used to eat Indian food. Today our food has been changed. That means the globalization had impact on our culture. Similarly, drink. Earlier we are doing the sharbat, this and that we are drinking. But today we are accustomed to all foreign drinks. Wear, clothes. Earlier Indian clothes. Today we are using all the different types of clothes which are available in the world. Okay. So clothes, wear. Indeed, in what we think. Our thinking also underwent a change. Because of what? Globalization. So, globalization shapes what we think, our preferences. The cultural effect of globalization leads to the fear that the process poses a threat to the cultures of the world. Many countries, many country people, many governments of various countries, they had a fear that their culture is in danger, their culture is in threat because of the influence of other countries, because of globalization. It is because of globalization the cultures of various countries are in danger. Like that, some governments they feel, they expressed their agony. Okay, it does so. It does so because globalization leads to the rise of uniform culture. But one thing, this globalization leading to a new common culture all over the world. Though we are losing our Indian culture, though we are losing our identity, but one new culture, one uniform culture is being generated due to globalization in the world. A common culture is being generated due to globalization in the world. But that is not the case. Actually, we should not lose our identity. We should have our culture. We should follow our culture. We should follow traditions. But the globalization is impacting on our culture. At the same time, it is generating a common culture all over the world. Okay. The rise of a uniform culture is not the emergence of global culture. Okay, I repeat, the rise of a uniform culture is not the emergence of global culture. What we have in the same of a global culture is the imposition of Western culture. I mean, today our Western culture has been imposed on us, and we are habituated of Western culture. We are following Western culture, so it is imposed on us. Suppose if globalization might have not there, so this Western culture have not entered into India. Okay, next. We have already studied this phenomena as a soft power of US hegemony in the chapter 3. Okay, the popularity of a what? Burger or blue jeans. Your burger blue jeans, famous in where? America. And the jeans were also, adopted, the jeans cloth is adopted in where? Russia. That means culturally USA dominated in where? USSR. So we have studied that one. What? US hegemony, US domination we have studied in chapter 3. The popularity of burger or blue jeans, some argue has a lot to do with this powerful influence of the American way of life. Because Americans, they use jeans more. They use more jeans. And it was adopted in the USSR also. That means America culturally dominating on what? USSR. That we have studied in chapter 3. So what I want to say, this globalization also having what? The cultural impact on having our cultural impact. So we can say it is having what? Cultural consequences. See, the cultural effect of globalization leads to the fear that this process poses a threat to cultures in the world. The globalization had its impact on culture of various countries, and people of different countries, their government, they had a fear and threat that they are losing the identity of their culture. Next one, the culture of the politically and economically dominant society leaves its imprint on the less powerful society. All the advanced countries or the developed countries, they're always imposing their culture on the developing countries and weak countries. They're giving their imprints on those countries, and the world begins to look more like the dominant power wishes to be. So the way in which the dominant power, the powerful countries they're doing like that, and the poor countries, the backward countries, the underdeveloped countries, the developing countries unable to control that, unable to stop that influence. Those who make this argument often draw attention to the what? McDonaldization. You know McDonald. Okay. So what is it? Those who make this argument often draw attention to what? McDonaldization. Here, McDonaldization of the world, with culture seeking to buy into the dominant American dream. McDonald, now many franchises are there in India. Okay, burgers, these pizza, all these things. Okay, so we are innovating. Our culture is being changed. So McDonaldization is one of the impact of what? The globalization in cultural field. While the cultural homogenization is an aspect of globalization, the same process also generates precisely the opposite effect also. It leads to each culture become more different and distinctive. This phenomenon is called what? Cultural what? Homogenization or heterogenization. Okay, first I said homogenization, now it's heterogenization. Hetero means what? Same. Hetero means what? Different. I repeat once again. while cultural homogenization is an aspect of globalization. I mean, it is through globalization where we are spreading one uniform culture all over the world. Okay, and the same process also generates precisely the opposite effect also. It leads to each culture becoming more different and distinctive one. This phenomenon is called what? Cultural heterogeneization. I mean different cultures. Hetero means what? Different. Okay. Now, moving to next, India and globalization. India and globalization. So, we'll discuss that what is the role played by India in globalization, or how globalization affected our country India. See, flows means what? Movement of goods and services or capital from between the countries or across the countries. So the flows pertaining to the movement of capital, commodities, ideas and people go back several countries in Indian history. I mean, these things we did in the past years also. Before the advent of British rule, before the beginning of British rule, also India is doing trade with other countries. At that time also our ideas were exchanged. People went to other countries. They exchanged goods and services. So it is not new for us. What is it here? Flows pertaining to the movement of capital, commodities, ideas, people. So these are done in our past history. Go back several centuries of in Indian history. During the colonial period, I mean during British rule. During the colonial period, as a consequence of Britain's imperial ambitions, India became an exporter of primary goods. Here, primary goods means what? Agricultural goods, or the goods which are directly collected from the environment, from the nature. So, during the colonial period, during the British rule, in the colonial period, as a consequence of British or Britain's imperial ambitions, India became a exporter of primary goods and raw materials and a consumer of finished goods. I mean, our country in the past history, if you see, during colonial rule, we exported all the primary goods and other raw materials to England, and we imported the finished goods from England. When we imported finished goods from England, then it leads to deindustrialization of our country. It affected the producers of our country. It decreased the economic growth of the country. It affected our economy as a whole. That we have seen in the past. That is what economic consequence of the British rule in India. Sorry. In 1991, when the globalization was actually started, in 1991, responding to the financial crisis, in 1991, worldwide financial crisis started. So in 1991, responding to the financial crisis and to the desire for higher rates of economic growth, I mean due to financial crisis and desire to rise economic growth, to increase economic growth in India, India started. Here embarked means what? Started. India embarked on a program of economic reforms. That's why we started economic reforms of 1991, new economic reforms of 1991. So in 1991, due to financial crisis and the desire to rise our economic growth, India started on a program of economic reforms that has sought increasingly to deregulate various sectors including trade and foreign investment. So from 1991 onwards, we started deregulation in India. We allowed foreign countries to invest their money in Indian markets. We allowed MNC companies to establish their factories or their enterprises in India. Why? Because we need more and more finance. We had financial crisis at that time. Moreover, we desired to have more economic growth. So we invited FDI, foreign direct investment in our country India. We invited foreign MNC companies into India to generate employment, to increase our per capita income and national income. So this we have done. So India always welcomed those people whenever we feel that we are having financial crisis, or whenever we have a desire to increase our economic growth in India. Okay, so up to here I am stopping, students. And some more topics are there which we will cover in the next period. So today I am stopping up to here only. Okay, so thank you, students. I suggest both the students to go through the textbook once. Go through the textbook once carefully and try to understand about the economic consequences of globalization and the cultural consequences of globalization and India and globalization. What is the relation of our country with the globalization? How India took part in the globalization? How India managed herself in the globalization world or in the global world, and how globalization affected our India. No doubt, globalization had a lot of impact on India, or Indian government, or Indian economy. Due to globalization, we have both positive effects and negative effects also. Positive effects means what? We got exposure to world markets. Our Indian goods were sold in the international market. We can compare our Indian goods with the foreign goods. Okay, we can through globalization we got new ideas from other countries. We got new technology from other countries. Okay, we invited FDI to our country. So these are the positive effects. Negative effects also there. What? It leads to unemployment. It leads to the drain of wealth from India to their countries. Okay, it leads to poverty. Moreover, many Indian companies, the small companies, the small firms, they are unable to compete with these MNCs or the foreign companies. Hence, they were closed in India and they were thrown into unemployment, and the unemployment further paved the way for what? Poverty. So, both negative and positive effects are there of globalization on India. Okay, students, thank you very much. I suggest both the students to read the textbook once again. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay happy. Thank you.